The chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gohmert, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the witnesses being here today because this is important, since the Internal Revenue Service is the only entity of which I'm aware in the federal government that can ignore the Constitution as part of its job. Nobody else gets to ignore the Constitution, but they can take people's money without due process. They can take their property. They can move in and destroy a business that took a lifetime to build, and they have done that. So it is particularly important that the agents that work for such an agency that can ignore the Constitution must itself be completely overwhelmed with integrity. And what we've seen is not the case. I know and have known IRS agents who are as fine and honest a people as walk the earth. I've heard from IRS agents who have been furious privately to see the kind of corruption and dishonesty that has overwhelmed the top of the Internal Revenue Service because, as one told me, when she just filed an amended tax return because she had forgotten $600, even though she still had a refund coming back, she was called in and was going to be fired because IRS agents have to be so above board that their integrity could never be questioned until you get to the supervisors and above. And that's where the rot is occurring and the stink is getting overwhelming. One of the judges in Tyler, Texas, federal judge William Wayne Justice, he did legislate from the bench, was wrong. But that man had such an incredible sense of integrity. Had he been listening to Commissioner Koskinen, the man would have spent time in jail before he finished his testimony. He had no use for people that would come in and obfuscate as this man has done. Now, back under the Bush administration, in this committee, we had an attorney general come in here, and under questionings about the national security letters, he testified from the very table our witnesses are sitting at that there were no known abuses of the national security letters. They were something like the IRS might use, demanding production of documents without going through a judge. He testified similarly in front of Chuck Schumer's committee. And then it was later found, and I watched a replay of the testimony late one night, where he testified, oh, well, it turns out that he had a IG report on his desk 3 days before he testified before the Senate that indicated there were thousands of abuses of the national security letter. And that he didn't know that, and under very tough questioning from Senator Schumer, he said, look, it was on my desk for 3 days, that's true, but I just never really looked at it, so I didn't know I wasn't lying. I was so outraged at the lack of integrity or the incompetence, whichever, of something that important, I called the White House Chief of Staff and said, you've got to get rid of this guy. He cannot be defended by Republicans again. This is outrageous. And my question, not just to the witnesses, but to all my colleagues across the aisle, is where is the Democrat with the righteous indignation for this kind of obfuscation and dishonesty that will call the White House and say, as I did of an attorney general, this man has to go, and in a month, that attorney general was gone. I would love to see the Democrat that still has that kind of righteous indignation to stand up and call it as it is without regard to party. I yield back.